Let me read this verse out of Genesis chapter 1, verse 24. It says, "And God said, let the earth bring forth a living creature after his kind, cattle and creeping thing, and beast of the earth after his kind. And it was so. And God made the beast of the earth after his kind, and cattle after their kind, and everything that creepeth upon the earth after his kind. And God saw that it was good." This is Elder Adrian Heyman on a series of lessons on the book of Genesis. We're right at the first portion of it, so you have time to join in. If you wish to look on my page, then you can see the various lessons that I've done. And again, we've just started on the book of Genesis. But if you want to also see where we are, I've also been making copies on YouTube. And after 30 days in Facebook, that's the only way that you can see it. So if anything's over 30 days, it gets deleted automatically from Facebook. YouTube, though, has it. And the playlist for this is, I believe it's Journey Through Genesis. Something with Genesis, but just know that. Now, what I just read to you is, again, this is a biblical account. I'm not going to fight science, and I understand the big differences between the two. I'm just presenting to you the biblical narration of the creation. If you want to believe it, that's fine. If you don't want to believe it, that's up to you. I'm not here to dispute with anyone regarding this. But I do want to see some things that are actually quite interesting. If you notice about whether it's been the whales, whether it's been the denizens of the sea, or the fowls of the air, and now the animals upon the earth, that everything that's been said is after their kind. In other words, there are strict areas, whereas each animal is not to go and crossbreed. Now, we know that animals can do that under extreme circumstances. We know that other special things too. But in most cases, a lion will only breed with a lion. A brown bear will only breed with a brown bear. A beaver will only breed with a beaver, and so on and so on. A rattlesnake will only breed with a rattlesnake. They don't crossbreed. And that keeps everything in order. Now, yes, there are times, whereas there are some animals that essentially, from what I've heard, in times whereas, let's say, if one of the sexes are not there, then some animals will begin to switch, which essentially is a fantastic thing. That does not mean that humans can do that, but it does mean that for the survival of that particular species, they're able to do that. And I want you to make sure that that's done, because essentially we tend to look at nature sometimes and say, well, if nature does it, then we can do it too. Like essentially the world, but they have particular rules that garner or that govern their own species. And sometimes they do it for survival's sake. We're not changing sexes for survival's sake. It's because somebody wants to do it. It's because their flesh wants to do it. So, and you like doing it. So just go ahead and say that. You like doing it. And not just say that, oh, it's something that is inherent in this. No, it's not inherent in the species. But it is something that you like to do. Just go ahead and admit it and be done. And okay, now that's up to you. But the idea with the animals, he went over the domesticated animals, he went over those that creep like lizards, like mice, like snakes, things that their bodies are low to the ground and they move across the earth. But think about all the things, about the various orders in which they exist. How you got the herbivores, which eats the grass of the earth. Some eat leaves off the trees. And of course, if there's too much, and they eat too much, then vegetation suffers, but also it means the animal that's eating off of them will starve. So it's a built-in mechanism to keep things in balance. They eat just enough to keep the vegetation from growing too wild, but just enough also so that the herds don't overeat and then lose their way. And then you got those that feed upon these, the carnivores, the bears, the mountain lions, the African lion, the wolf, the coyote, whereas they feed off of the herbivores. But again, we learned that if you let the herbivores get too big, they destroy the land. So they have not only their own way of keeping track, but keeping things in balance, but you have the carnivores. And it takes a bit more energy for a carnivore to take down a herbivore or a plant-eating animal. So because of that, there's not a whole lot of carnivores. But they keep the herbivore herds at a manageable level. And this has happened for thousands of years. So only when man came into the picture and destroyed that balance, things began to happen. That they killed the carnivores because they were destroying their herds, and they wanted to make a profit off the herds. And so you kill off the carnivores, and then the natural herds of antelope and deer and bison begin to grow. And then, oh, goodness, a thing to eat. Let's go shoot all of them so we can have a lot of stuff. And so then you got barely anything there. And then, of course, there are certain things that happen also. That if you kill a certain type of animal, then those that are called pests will tend to just explode in number, because they've always had the ability to have lots of offspring. But you're talking about bugs, you're talking about mosquitoes, you're talking about lice, you're talking about mice, you're talking about rats, you're talking about things that carry diseases. But see, when God created all of these things, all the way from, I guess, beginning at the third day, when it was more than just light and creating the air, the firmament, but his creation had to be good. Not because of an inherent niceness about them, but because it was in perfect balance. Don't you think about that? Perfect balance. If you look up in the sky, you see the clouds. And even right now, I'm looking at clouds. They're not real thick, but they move across the sky. But at a certain point, if they get too thick, then it gets too heavy and condensation falls down as rain. But you see, if the clouds are there, that's water vapor already. Water vapor's right there. And it goes from one area to another. Sometimes it builds up, sometimes it dissipates, depending upon whether it's a cold front or a warm front. Weather essentially sometimes varies over the years, but the climate still stays the same, at least until man has messed it up. Then you go past the firmament and you go into space. And everything moves according to a predetermined rule, based upon size, based upon mass, based upon density, based upon power, based upon light. And there are these things that, again, they govern themselves. You don't hear everything crashing each other all at once all the time. Yeah, there are some meteors that crash down, but it's not very much. And with this particular planet, we don't even see it, but there's a magnetic field that shields us. There's an ozone layer that shields us from things that would burn us up, things that would crush us, things that would just destroy us. The Lord knew what he was doing when he created this planet. And then got the animal kingdom and how they're well balanced between carnivore and herbivore, between things that were somewhat beneficial and then those that carried pests. Again, balance. And the reason why he said it was good, that God said it was good, was because of that balance. When God created, so let's say you make something, and you make, let's say, a table, and you create this table out of screws, nuts and bolts, the parts that you get, and you make it a certain way. You will say it's good if it performs the way it should. It stands. It holds things. Maybe you have a lever that pulls something out that you can put things in. That happens to work too. But then you say, okay, that's good because it's doing what it is supposed to do. Oh, but wait a minute. You didn't attach it to the wall, and maybe this particular brand, you have to attach it to the wall. Well, is the wall strong enough? Can it hold the weight that two of the legs of the table would normally do? Where are the legs of the table where they should be put there? And again, it has to now go to there's more concerns. But after you make sure everything is right, it's good. God is the master carpenter, the master creator, the master at everything, because he makes sure things go on, and he doesn't have to keep going, keep tweaking, keep doing it, keep going. He sets it up, and on it goes. Doesn't have to come back and fix it, because it's as the cycle continues from generation to generation. Well, how come things are happening right now the way it should be? Well, a lot of it is because the Lord's last creation. And we'll talk about that at a later lesson. But God's last creation put his hand in it and didn't think of the consequences that only now we're seeing. And it's causing a danger to our own existence. But when the Lord created everything in its time, in its course, according to their kind. Everything was good. That to me is the sign of a wise God. To not only create the animals and the plants and the various heavenly bodies and all of those, but to create the equations that only now and over the last century or two that scientists have been able to discover and find, oh, this equation fits that movement. God never used a calculator. He never used a computer. He never had to have a memory chip. None of that. He did it from his own mind. That is an amazing thing. May God bless you. May he keep you. Keep rejoicing in Jesus' name.